Okay, we will call this agenda and priorities meeting to order for February the 7th. And are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Barkley, 2 additions, please. 2.3, just have the agenda adoption, and we could do a staff introduction. And then also in camera, 6.2, contracts, MGA 197.2, FOIP legislation 17.2F.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Great, thank you. We'll move into 2.3.
Good afternoon, Mayor Barkley and Council. We have a new staff member that we have added to the team as of last week. So I would like to introduce you to Shelby Veldkamp. We're very happy to have her aboard as our marketing and digital media specialist. Shelby is we're really happy to have her aboard because she is actually grew up here in Innisfail. She graduated from Innisfail High School, but she's also a graduate of the communications program at Red Deer Polytechnic. So she really is homegrown talent, and it's great that we can add to her career journey as helping her to develop her skills and bring her along. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Shelby up and just to say a few words to you.
Pretty much what he said. So I'm very excited to be joining the town of Innisfail team here. And yeah, day 3. So far, so good.
Well, welcome, Shelby, and it's great to have you here, and welcome to the team, and look forward to seeing your work in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into 3.1. CEO Becker will introduce Alicia Fox with RPAP.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'd like to bring Alicia up. I'd like to introduce council to Alicia Fox, who is a rural community consultant with the Alberta Rural Health Professional Action Plan, which we often call RPAP. Alicia did come before previous council right before the election with some information, introduce herself and what she does with RPAP in the community. You'll likely hear that she's relatively new to the community and seeing some good things, right, Alicia? So yeah, we thought it's advantageous for Alicia to come back to talk to you, council. So over to you, Alicia.
Thanks very much, Todd. I'll skip my introduction then because you did such a lovely job. And yes, we usually call it RPAP because we're a fan of acronyms and it's a lot easier to say that. So good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here. I was here back in the fall, so some of this information might be a little bit familiar to you, but I also thank you for the opportunity to present to the new council members as well. So if I can get the presentation pulled up. Am I able to click through? Awesome, thank you. And you'll also notice, I'm sorry, the date says January 24th. I was supposed to be here. Thank you for deferring that. I could not make it. No problem. I'll just talk about how much I really like Innisfail. We moved here back in July and it's been really great. Moved here with my 3 kids and my husband. So it's been a really fantastic community to move to.
I'll just remind everyone that Councillor Maceras is on Zoom today, so we kind of see her coming in and out of the screen sometimes, but hopefully to keep her up there. And if you have anything to say, Councillor Maceras, just put your hand up, and if we don't see it, just say something. Okay.
Thank you.
You're engaged here.
Thanks so much. Do I just click the forward button there? Oh, yes, excellent. Okay, So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a history of who RPAP is and what we do. So we have research-backed strategies to attract and retain healthcare providers in rural communities. We have accommodations for various learners, and that does include in Innisfail. There's just a little bit of sometimes we own the accommodations, sometimes they're alternate accommodations. In Innisfail's case, it is an alternate accommodation. Where possible, especially considering COVID restrictions right now, we have programs that allow medical learners to experience rural Alberta firsthand. We support practicing rural Alberta healthcare providers to acquire continuing medical education. We amplify the rural voice to key stakeholders and the provincial government on issues related to the rural health workforce and physician resource planning. And one way that we do this is through the rural VIP or voice information panel. And I did include a little invitation and some information about that in your package. So if you're interested in learning more about that, reading over some of the surveys or participating in that, there's some information in there for you. We also partner with many different organizations, associations, and communities across Alberta, including experience sharing from different communities that can be applied and adapted to fit another rural community. But the biggest piece is really just working to build capacity in these communities and with rural Albertans directly. There's a saying that goes, if you know one rural community, you know one rural community. So the strategies implemented in Innisfail may reflect those done with success elsewhere, but they could be adapted and modified to best suit the needs of healthcare providers and the work done in this community. So this is our team, the Community Development Engagement team. That's the one that I work on. Our focus is, we have an asset-based focus. So we really want to highlight what is unique and the assets in the community and how that looks to capitalize on those. This is kind of our mission statement: to grow the capacity of rural community attraction and retention committees to positively influence the experiences of their local healthcare professionals and students. We know that healthcare in rural Alberta is a team effort. So the focus of the attraction and retention work is on the range of healthcare providers found in rural Alberta. You may also hear me say ANR, just means attraction and retention. And to give a little bit of context, when we talk about learners there, we are including both high school and post-secondary. And rural for us is defined as communities that are under the 15,000 mark and outside the greater metropolis areas of Calgary and Edmonton. We work with about 45 ANR committees, which have involvement from more than 150 rural communities. So a lot of times there's multiple communities involved in one committee, and represent a total population of more than 350,000 people. RPAP has been around for about 30 years now. We just celebrated 30 years last year, and we have supported community involvement directly in ANR work for about 10 years. So this is our map for our team. There are 8 of us, 7 different zones. Our director lives in Rcmp, and then I'm there in the South Central zone. And you'll notice that in your agenda package, you also have this just for your reference, as well as a little bit on our team. I didn't want to go through all of that. I'm sure you're perfectly capable of reading that over it when you have some time to do that. One thing to note is that more than half of our staff actually live and work in rural Alberta. So I do work from home. I don't commute anywhere. I'm based in rural. And our new CEO, who's starting next month, Tracy Sopko, she also has deep rural roots. She grew up in the Spirit River. So we're very excited to welcome her. Before I go a little bit further, I just wanted to make a quick distinction between these words. So there's attraction and retention. That's what we focus on. And then there's recruitment. We don't do any of the recruitment piece. That is the administrative portion of filling a role. And that's just the administrative process there. But we really see ourselves as that bookend of supporting the recruitment process. So that means we focus on supporting health professional recruitment efforts in attraction strategies, and then the ongoing efforts of communities that's supported by formal and informal recognition of existing healthcare providers in Alberta. And I did mention a little bit ago that our strategies were research backed. There's a little more information about this if you want to read that over. I'm happy to pass you as much information as you'd like out of this 50-some page document, but I gave you the highlights. But you'd probably like that a little better. We conducted a study back in 2019. It highlights what leads to success in attraction and retention. And I've also, I've also got an email address in there if you want me to email you anything more on that. ANR committees and rural communities can influence the experience of healthcare providers by addressing these 2 factors in particular, the community and the family. And any supports that can be provided along these lines can truly make a difference on the healthcare provider's decision to stay in a community. There is the professional aspect of that. A lot of times those are pieces that we like to say that we can control focus on controlling what we can control. And some of those pieces are not things that we can control at a community level. It's just things that we can support, which is really great to do. So we look at the community and the family in particular. I also, if you're interested in seeing it, I'm happy to show you later. I've got a toolkit and it's got tools and resources. And we've completely overhauled this actually, including adding a second binder for strategies to attract learners to rural communities. And depending on where your community is in its A&R work, resources are available to understand the healthcare landscape, a worksheet on who might sit around the table at a committee, sample terms of reference, or a series of recipe cards with specific ideas about what attraction and retention might look like. These are all living documents constantly being updated, really depending on what's happening, and they can be adapted and used depending on who's part of the conversation and what ideas kind of spring up around the table. I'll mention this very briefly. Unfortunately, our most popular way of doing attraction strategies is on hold because of COVID. Excuse me. We have in the past hosted more than 50 events in communities across Alberta, and that's both for students in high school, and that introduces them to careers in healthcare, kind of gets those gears turning. What might it look like if I were to stay in my rural community and practice here after high school, and how might I get there? As well as post-secondary students who are already on that path to rural practice. We want them to envision themselves in rural Alberta and understand that team approach. So the Let's Go Rural programs right now have been primarily online. We did do quite a pivot there, and we've been offering a unique way for students from Fort Chipewyan all the way down to the South Milk River area and everywhere in between to learn what a career in healthcare might look like for them. And we also had a few virtual transition to practice events for nursing and medical students considering rural practice. These are all still in development, looking to reach more students as we can, but definitely looking forward to connecting in person when we can do that as well. And I will mention just briefly, another virtual opportunity is specifically for community members. I put a poster in there for an information session. Those are held monthly, they're free, they're 1 hour. This month is about the Alberta Federation of Regulated Health Professionals, and it is free to attend. So there's information to register for that if you'd like. So the efforts of attraction and retention are really not a one-time thing. It is a continuum of building on small successes, those continuous efforts of reaching out, connecting, showing appreciation, finding opportunities to integrate, networking, sharing experiences. And one of the ways that we do that is through our Attraction and Retention Conference. We were very excited to hold it in 2020. That didn't happen. Then we were very excited to postpone it to 2021. Also didn't happen. So we're really gunning for this fall. It's slated for October 4th to the 6th in Drayton Valley. And if you are able to attend, I would highly encourage you to do that. The theme is put on your perspectacles. So another key piece of our work is collaborative and partnership efforts. Partnering with these groups here informs our work and offers a bigger impact of where we can work together. RPAP and AHS have collaborated on community engagement sessions, and RPAP's consultants like myself also attend and present at the Health Advisory Council meetings. We work regularly with medical affairs and the physician resource planners, as well as closely with talent acquisition. We meet with provincial leads in nursing and allied health and regularly with area managers. We have also partnered with the Allied Health Profession Practice and Education and have been supporting social work practicums. And that's a new initiative there. We've heard from many communities that mental health is top priority. So RPAP is part of the Advisory Council to the Rural Mental Health Project, and we do share information back to A&R committees, as well as offer a connection between these contacts and community members within our support network. See, he's not going forward. Can you click? There we go. Perfect. Thank you. We also have a strong communications team, tell the stories of rural health, highlighting innovative community initiatives, outstanding practitioners, and attraction and retention successes. And I've included links to the e-newsletter and newsletter in the council package if you want to stay updated. But if you're social media savvy, we also have 5 channels. You just pick your favorite and follow any or all of them. This one still isn't working for me. There we go. Thank you. I might have to rely on you. Thanks. So you guys might very well know of the Rhapsody Awards. Innisfail was home to one of 2 Healthcare Heroes Awards handed out last year. There are those 3 categories: the Community Award, Physician Award, and the Healthcare Heroes Award. Of course, our awesome Community Partners in Action and the Dementia Friendly Community Initiative was one of 2 winners there of the Healthcare Heroes Award. And this is really a big appreciation piece for our healthcare providers. Nominations are open for 2022. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Deadline is February 28th. And this year's recipients will be announced during Alberta Rural Health Week in May. Wait, where this time? Alberta Rural Health Week is coming up here, and it's a really great way to show appreciation to local healthcare providers. And just wanted to throw this in there as well, because we have seen municipalities choose to declare it officially to boost that awareness. And I'm happy to pass that information to you a little bit closer to that when they've finalized everything. So I wanted to be pretty specific on where I can really envision Innisfail going from here. And there are really 3 pieces that I think are key here. So we can build on existing work, we can develop new strategies, and engage the community. And these were kind of put together with some of the conversations that I've had with community members, and going, you know, how can you envision this? So I'm kind of going to go through a couple of things and then throw it back to you and see what your thoughts are on this. So for that first piece, there are students, again, who either commute or stay in town. That's a real opportunity to attract the ones who are already here and already interested in Innisfail in whatever capacity. The clinic here does have strategies in place to welcome and retain medical residents. They're doing some really awesome work. And there are community members already working to make Innisfail an inclusive and welcoming place in whatever variety that looks like. I know that there's some really great initiatives out there. Now, in terms of developing new strategies, this work really continually evolves and adapts. So whatever that looks like for Innisfail, it may be unique, it may be adaptive from other strategies, but however that may evolve. And then engaging. So there has been an expressed interest in community members in involving themselves in some attraction or retention work. An example of this is the Chamber. They've expressed an interest in being involved wherever they can be, potentially welcome to town gifts to showcase the area, some unique assets. And I've been in discussion with a few other community members who may be interested in potentially forming a committee or at least a group of folks with a common purpose. One of the benefits of having an official committee is that there is an attraction and retention grant that's available to committees who have a terms of reference put together. So there is up to $3,000 available from RPAP every 3 years to committees who have identified projects that they would like to undertake for that work. And the ask then is not for funding at all, but for municipal support for that work and potentially room for a committee with either municipal backing or a delegate to represent the town within an established group of people. And I say that established group of people because we are shifting a little bit from focusing only on committees to what might that look like if we had a network of support and that network of attraction and retention. I don't know, how does that look in different communities and what might that look like depending on who's at the table? So that's all the information I'm going to give you. Thank you so much for sitting through it all. But I am happy to take any questions that I can, and any that I can't answer, I'll be happy to find some answers for you.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. It was excellent as always. Anyone have any questions? No, guess you did such a great job that no, just on the
hook here.
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and through to Alicia. Committees. I don't think we have a committee yet. What would you suggest, or how would you suggest that we move forward with that?
So there's actually a couple of really great resources that I can email. The first one is who sits around the table. And it's just a little worksheet about who is in your community, some ideas, some just, you know, it's got some blank spots where you can write down who's involved with the PCN, who's involved with FCSS, who's involved with volunteer networks, because a lot of times the people in your community who are the real workhorses are the public members who might be healthcare professionals who are interested, what municipality interest is there as well. So that's one. Another sheet is the terms of reference sample that you can take a look at and adapt however you see fit. It's all put together for you, so it's super easy. I can forward both of those. And then it also has, I wasn't going to throw it in there because it's a lot of information, but there's another one that says, talks about who brings what to the table. So what might municipality look like in terms of what the expectation is. So in terms of that, maybe it's providing a space like a meeting chamber, maybe it's administrative support, or maybe it's just some of that information, the liaison piece. And then there's different pieces depending on who you want to bring forward. So I can send those.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If you could send that through to administration so it'll get into our packages.
Absolutely.
And the second question is around schools. I see Grow Your Own.
Yep.
Can you just maybe expand on what Grow Your Own is,
Sure.
that program?
So the Grow Your Own program is really, really cool when we can. A lot of times it's in a health facility, which is why it's been on hold for a time here. Sometimes it is held in, say, a community hall or in the school itself. But basically what you do is you gather a handful of healthcare providers in various professions, and that might be an RN, maybe it's a mental health professional, and a doctor, and you get them in there and they actually do a lot of times skill stations. And so they used to be called skills events. We've branched out to be the Let's Go Rural program. And these skill stations might teach them suturing. It might teach them IV starts. That's some of the things, obviously very well supervised older kids. These are high school age kids. And then you get a tour of the facility if possible. And the whole purpose is you're in this community, you know what's so good about rural. Now, what's so good about being in a healthcare profession in rural Alberta? And what we do is we work directly with the high school itself and say, who in your high school in the grades, even grades 9, but usually 10 to 12, has identified an interest in being in healthcare? And we really target those students. So it might be anywhere between 20 and 30 students who come out. And it's just a one-day thing.
Thank you. We do have a youth action group, so that might be a place to start. Thank you.
Councillor Heisted.
Yeah, my question was going to be around the high school. So thanks for asking that, Dawn. Question, do you, with your group, do you educate the MLAs as well, how important rural hospitals are to our communities, small communities, as well as within the whole province? Just thought I'd ask that one.
Well, technically our funding is through Alberta Health. So we do sit at those tables. We do bring it forward to those tables. That is usually, it's not my team directly. They definitely have leadership that sits with the Alberta government and has those discussions. But I guess the short answer is yes, that we do take the information that we gather from the conversations and we do provide it, whether that's through the voice information panel from across Alberta or conversations with communities. And we do bring that back. We don't always hear the feedback as to what conversations had the outcome of those, but we know that it's coming forward.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Thanks, Alicia, for your presentation. That was wonderful. Thanks for your information on your high school work. I'd like to ask you a question about your post-secondary work. That's kind of the life that I've had in the past. Do you work with just based on the fact that you have regional colleagues? Do you each work with the post-secondaries within your region as far as finding practicums and locums, or do you just extend to the whole province and say Innisfail's looking for, or how does that work?
Generally, we do try to focus on what's kind of in this area, only because distance-wise, it makes it a little bit easier. We've really branched out our partnership with RDP as well. And we've done some really great, we're hoping to eventually in person, but some really great online initiatives with the LPN and RN students there. But in terms of the students who usually come out, it could be, as far as U of A, usually it is, I think within Innisfail, it probably be closer to USC. But something like the transition of practice, the benefit of virtual is that it's been kind of doors thrown wide open, right? So we've been able to get students online from much other areas of the province who wouldn't otherwise been able to come and see what would be available, say in the southern, if they were in the northern part of the province. So that's a really good question. We've been trying to work a little bit more with regional colleges and expand that work, but yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you again, and we will certainly keep in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll forward that on.
Thanks for bringing your friends too.
You know, moral support. Good.
Okay, we will move into 3.2, Councillor Heisted on community safety.
was trying to remember what I was going to talk about. As to communities, it's the lighting piece. I think it says trails. I'm just looking at, where's the agenda? I think it was trail lighting. So no, this came up to, brought up to me, as well as me walking early in the morning around town, especially on the berm when I'm just trying to think of the White Rock area near the railway crossings. I'm looking at some of the walking paths that we do have in our community. If we could look into the possibility of having some more lights in some of the trailed areas. And if you're looking at, on the berm there near White Rock, as well as just some of the well-traveled trails that are out there early in the morning or else in the evening, I think that would be something that we could look into in the future. Something I've noticed, and actually it was brought up to me as well, something administratively that we could check into. So I don't know if there's any comments or questions for me, but I'm not expecting this to be done next week,
Good.
even because we have big plans for the next few years.
Would you like to make a motion then, Councillor Hystad, to direct administration to where I'm not sure where this is
I have a
headed,
comment.
but what's that?
I have a comment.
Oh, you want to comment first? Okay.
He asked if there were any comments. So I was on council as we switched to LED, for instance, on the streets. And I guess I'm going to suggest that we consider tabling this discussion until we get into our strategic plan, because there's no end, I don't think, of one-offs that we could look at. And perhaps we could discuss it more on an overall step basis, what we might even consider doing. Because yeah, I went around with the last director of operations, and there's lots of streets that you could make that case, one off, somebody's particular address, and wherever you light that trail to, as soon as you stop, you've got an unlit trail. So I think perhaps we could look at it more as one of the items that we might discuss and then direct administration at that time. It's just my suggestion.
Yeah, actually, I don't disagree with you, Gavin. I think it's administratively, it would make sense for us to plan this properly. My intent was to bring it forward and actually put it on the administrative update agenda, just to see where we're at. And I think that there's more people and I'll use COVID as an example. There's more people walking now than I've ever seen in the community. So I'm looking at Mayor Jean Barkley and Todd for direction.
Well, I mean, Councillor Hystad to direct administration to do something, we would need a motion to do that. But CEO Becker, did you want to, or Director Jenkins, to add anything to this conversation?
Sure. Anticipating seeing the agenda, Mayor Barkley, we went back, talked just briefly about our Trails Master Plan, which would be good to get that in the face of council, which likely would be adding this to that component. What is your priority? From my own perspective, I guess personally, that's allowed is, if there is a deficiency of trail lighting, I'd say it's up to you if you wish to enhance your trail lighting. That's your play. Certainly is budgetary, but it's also planning. It's really setting up through your trail master plan what trails do you want lit and when through a priority listing. Then of course budgetary, and then start putting it into your application to the budget. But certainly is community safety, but also this could be aesthetics. But you look at Centennial Park has a level of low emittance lighting, which serves a purpose. And if you want to extend that, this certainly is a capital requirement, but certainly you can put into any place you want. It could be strategy, but it also could be reviewing your master plan. But I'd say the first start would be to talk about community safety through strategy, but also ask administration to bring back the master plan to get a kind of a peek at what that looks like.
CEO Becker, will you be bringing forward the trail master plan regardless, or do you want a motion for any of this, or we'll review that going forward at some point?
I don't think we need a motion, Mayor Barkley. It's one of your key planning documents. Let's just bring it forward to you.
Yeah.
And then I'll start adding into this conversation generated by Councillor Heisted. And then tied into your next week planning session. But then maybe operations and community service concerns, thinking about what do we need to do to build out a lighting strategy. And so basically it's a strategy in itself, a planning document.
Yeah, for sure. And it'd be good to see the trail master plan again anyways, I believe. And we talked about wayfinding signage in the parks, and that's kind of hasn't come about yet. So it'd be good to review that for sure. Councillor Heisted?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think my intent was to bring it up for discussion. So I agree with Gavin and his comments. Thanks.
You agree with Councillor Bates, right?
Yeah, today I do for 7 minutes. So that's it.
All right, so we're good with that item. We'll move on to 3.3 then, Councillor Heisted, and the treaty acknowledgement.
Yeah, I brought this, and the reason why I'm doing an administrative update, I just want to bring it to our attention. I know that we do a treaty acknowledgement. I think it's once a month. It appears to be, right. And a lot of the meetings that I've been going, to across the province, as well as I was at a welcoming committee meeting last week, and it was with the Rcmp diversity unit. And I recognize that the treaty acknowledgement and the truth and reconciliation, there's an opportunity for us as leaders in our community to do this at every meeting, every Monday. And I think that it'd be very fitting for us, especially as we evolve as a community on the welcoming committee side, and making sure that the truth and reconciliation recommendations have been brought forward, for leaders like us to identify that. And I guess my comments would be, we're all treaty people. It's about the physical and emotional connection to the land, all of us. It doesn't matter if you're Caucasian or Indigenous, it's our connection to the land. I think it would be an opportunity for us to lead by having that recognized at every Monday meeting. And that's what I want to bring forward as a discussion, and leave it at that.
Okay, does anyone have any comments to make, or? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I would agree with Councillor Heisted. I can't speak from experience from other municipal councils, but certainly not many not-for-profit boards that I sit on or participate with start every meeting with their acknowledgement. So I do believe that it does heighten our awareness of our truth and reconciliation commitments, and think that would be a positive step for our meetings. Thank you.
Councillor Dunham?
Mayor Barkley, I'd also agree. Several meetings that we've had lately begin with that treaty acknowledgement, and I think going forward we're going to see more and more of it. And I think it's just as Councillor Heisted, that we should be leading that. So I'm full agreement with that.
Okay, and I'll just, so if everybody knows where we were at starting, where we did, of course, we'd never done it before at council, so we started there. I was also, through CEO Becker, was connected with the Native Friendship Center in Red Deer, and I spoke to them the last week or the week before. And so it was kind of around, this is a starting point for sure, but it's also just words, and how do you actually move a needle on something? And as the person I spoke to there said, sometimes the words, you almost become numbified because you hear it over and over and over, but what else are we going to do? And so spoke with her and about some other opportunities, blanket exercise, having potentially a workshop with them, etc. So that's kind of where things were at, and was just gathering more information. And if somebody wants to make a motion that we do this every week, then please do so.
Hello, everybody. Mayor Barkley.
Sorry, Councillor Maceras, I forgot about you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things before we make a motion. And that is that, yeah, I love that we've started doing this. I think it shows that that there's some progression in terms of wanting to do the land acknowledgement. One thing that I would, and I think I kind of heard you referring to this a little bit, is that we really want to avoid the notion of tokenism by just saying words at every meeting for the sake of giving the land acknowledgement. And to that end, I was wondering about putting some concerted effort towards drafting a statement, a land acknowledgement statement that comes from our council to provide a little bit of, something personal around it from us. So I don't know if that is something that we would like to consider.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Maceras. That's a good point. I was on a Zoom, I don't know, maybe a month ago now, and there were certainly discussions around this about kind of formal and maybe not so formal. And the Indigenous person that was giving that talk was certainly very much about, there are times where you can craft your own, and so it's something that we own as opposed to the one that we are using is coming from elsewhere. But that's a good point for sure. Some food for thought.
I think as well, with Jason and I sitting on the WIC committee, is that we do have a number of different events that are going to be coming up this year. We're having some community conversations and that around this. So I think there is already that development in the community for blanket exercises. We're having some elder Crees speaking for 4 different sessions on truth and reconciliation. So I think we already have that being brought forth in the community. For us as a council, I think it's a good pairing.
Thanks for that, Councillor Dunham. I would agree with Councillor Maceras as well, as crafting our own. Maybe it's during our planning sessions we can talk about it a little more then. The treaty acknowledgement, we could have our own words around it, but we also can speak from our own as individuals, our own gut, our heart, as to, you can add your own. And that's what I've learned the last few years is working with Indigenous people is how do we learn from one another and, make the world a better place, or actually our country a better place. And I always found that once you start breaking down those barriers or speaking right from your own heart, the respect for both sides really opens up. So that's my intent. Your worship, do you want me to put a motion to the floor? Yep. I'll make a motion that Innisfail Town Council create a treaty acknowledgement for our council. Let's put that forward for every meeting, every Monday meeting that we do have.
Okay.
So, yeah. I don't have a strong feeling in either direction. I think it's great that we started, and I don't want to see us get into a dilution if it's repetitive and not. So I like the idea that Councillor Maceras made of something personal. What is the proper protocol of us making motions at A&P? I guess.
Directly to Councillor Bates, it's a recommendation to regular council. This item would be then put into an RFD for your consideration next Monday.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Sorry, Mayor Barkley. Do we need to?
I'm sorry, Councillor Maceras.
Sorry,
Hear you. It's better.
Did we say that we're putting that motion forward for our regular council meeting next week? Or we're going to put it? I don't understand. What I'm trying to get at is I'm wondering if we're putting a motion, if we need to have 2 motions, one that talks about crafting our own message and the second one that talks about how often we want to say the land acknowledgement.
And CEO Becker.
Mayor Barkley to Councilor Mazzaros. So yeah, it'd be a motion today, Councilor Mazzaros, to recommend to regular council, which is next Monday, with any direction that council sees fit. To be up to Councilor Heidstead if he wishes to add in through your advice, the notion of drafting a town council specific land acknowledgement.
Councillor Heistad, did you want to amend to add that in, or did you want to leave the motion as is?
I'll just leave it as is, and then we
Okay.
can deal with it at our regular meeting. Is that okay, Cindy? I'm just looking at Cindy on the screen.
Yes, that's fine with me, Jason. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, and we will move on to 3.4, Director Kennedy with the Health and Safety Program.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. So in regards to an update in regards to our health and safety program, I've actually brought Kevin he's our health and safety coordinator he's the one that drafted the presentation and has really taken on the program to get our core certification. So I've asked Kevin to actually just present since he's put it all together. And yeah, give him an opportunity to introduce himself to you guys as well. So I will let Kevin go ahead.
Thanks, Director Kennedy, for the introduction. So my name is Kevin Fedorchuk. I'm the Health and Safety Coordinator for the town. I've been with the town since August of 2018. And we have worked diligently on the health and safety program throughout the organization to work towards a plan of achieving a certificate of recognition. So when we started, clicker's not working. So if you could just, there we go. No, we moved up too far. Move back one slide. So anyways, we started with a health and safety action plan. We developed it in 2018 with the goal of achieving and working towards our COR. The action plan had 84 action items that needed to be addressed so that we could achieve, or we get close to being able to achieve, a certificate of recognition. And in 2019, I did an internal audit on the program to see where we were at with the program, and we achieved a score of 81.5% or 81%, which would have allowed us to achieve a COR if we would have done an external audit. But I wanted to continue to improve the program. So why did we want to achieve was one of the questions that I got asked a lot. Why do we want a COR? What does it mean? So certificate of recognition, it's a COR is a certificate of recognition through Occupational Health and Safety and WCB. It was a program that was developed through labor, OHS and WCB years ago to improve the health and safety for workers on work sites. So basically, if an organization had a good health and safety management system in place, they could meet the standard set out in the partnerships program that would allow them to achieve a COR. This would also be a good example for contractors and service providers, because if you're an organization and you're hiring contractors and service providers, you can't ask them to have a COR when you yourself do not have one. That would be very difficult to do. So that's another reason. And it also, when I went and I took my auditor's program in 2018, I was surprised to find out that only 14% of municipalities in Alberta had a COR. So I was quite astonished to find out that it was that low. And I don't know what it is now, but so that was a few years ago, but I'm imagining it can't be much more higher. Even if it's at 30% of municipalities in Alberta have a COR, we're still looking and being a leader in health and safety within our industry of municipalities. So that'd be another one. Also to join the partnership and injury reduction, which would give us a rebate on our WCB premiums of 5% for having our COR. Looking today though, The town actually does a very good job of safety and has always done a very good job of safety. Because when I looked at our WCB program this afternoon, we were actually at 67% rebate. The maximum is 60% rebate. So the 5% that we would get normally for a COR doesn't even apply because we're better than 67% of industry. So we would need to have quite a few injury accidents to bring us to where that would even kick in. So overall, the safety program's been good and we are practicing safety. And therefore, the last question of if we're already doing it, why not be recognized for it comes into play because they were doing it. Everybody was practicing safety and we were doing it, working safe. We just weren't being recognized for it. So by achieving this core, we would be recognized for it. And so in November, we decided we were going to have our external audit and see where we come up. When we did it, we managed to pass our audit with 91%. Okay, that one's the wrong way. Let's go that way. There we go. We ended up with a score of 91% in the overall audit, which was very good. It was higher than my expectation. I was expecting we were going to be in the mid to high 80s, and we ended up at 91, which was very good. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to review some of the strengths and opportunities suggested by the auditor within the audit for improvement. We'll add the suggestions to the health and safety action plan. Just to let you know that we had 84 when we started in 2018. We're down to 24 action items left on our health and safety audit, our health and safety action plan. And majority of those are where we lost points on the actual audit tool. So there are already suggestions that we know we were deficient in that we need to improve on, and we will continue to do that. The completed audit is also shared on the shared drive SharePoint under health and safety and then under audits for all of our employees to review, because one of the important things is to ensure that our workers and our employees have access to this health and safety information and that it's clear and transparent of where we are and where we're going with our program and what we want to do. So this is the scoring summary sheet from the audit. As you can see, there's 10 elements to the health and safety audit if you're unfamiliar with it. And each of the elements have a scoring section. We're scored on basically your policies and procedures that you have in place, employee interviews, and observation tour. Basically during this audit, because of COVID, observation tours weren't done because partnerships just said observation tours don't need to be done because we don't need to expose people to COVID. So that those portions of the elements, the scores were reduced by those, so they weren't counted. Anything over a 75, I consider as a win, that we have good documentation in place, our employees are practicing it, and we just need to improve on it to bring it up. Most of our scores are in the high 80s to 90s, if not over that. So we do have room to improve, which will come with over the time. So some of the strengths that was demonstrated during the audit is the level of commitment from senior management on health and safety, the understanding of the roles and responsibilities for health and safety by all levels of management, the comprehensive system of formal hazard assessment, including comprehensive list of tasks, hazards, and controls. With this one, that was one of the things that I focused on in 21 very greatly, because that was with redoing all of our job procedures and adding a hazard assessment for each job description that we had. So that was a task that senior management and employees took on. And by mid-June, we had completed all of our job description hazard assessments for all of the jobs, which allowed us to get the 91%, I'm sure, for what we had. Respect for workplace policy had been clearly communicated throughout the organization, and that was one of the elements of the audit that was added to it. And we had completed that, and it was well communicated to all our employees. Health and safety members confirmed their awareness of regarding their responsibilities within the health and safety. So that's our joint worksite health and safety committee members. Town maintains a comprehensive system for job training, new employees for employees with assigned new tasks or operational changes affecting their work. Town makes health and safety information readily available to affected external worksite parties in accordance with the tasks being performed, and that's with our contractors and our service providers, ensuring that they have proper safety requirements before they're being hired or allowed to perform tasks within our facilities. And then the facilities field inspection checklist, ensuring that we support the town maintains a comprehensive yet easy to use inspection checklist for completions of formal inspections in accordance with the audit protocol. That first aid training at each sampled facility meet or exceed legislation minimums. And employees confirmed awareness of town incident reporting process, including incident near misses, occupational illness, and refusal of work. Collection of and analysis of health and safety stats, as well as the corresponding review of employees at all levels, demonstrated the organization's commitment to successful and health and safety management system. So those were the suggestions or some of the strengths that the auditor found. And with strengths come opportunities for improvement. There we go. So documentation review did not always support the managers participated in all completing health and safety meetings for the 12-month period. So that we need to work on with our managers to ensure that they're in attending all of the health and safety meetings that they can. Hazard assessment and control policy did not appear to include the requirement for review of formal hazard assessments when inspection and site-specific hazard assessments identify new hazards. That was an oversight on my part that the protocol had changed and I didn't change the policy, but that's now been rectified. Town maintains a comprehensive orientation process. One of the things that's lacking is a town's discipline policy is required by the audit protocol. So they didn't find that we had a formal disciplinary process that we were following. That's a requirement by the audit protocol. Documentation didn't consistently support all inspections had been conducted by all employee levels in accordance with the town policy for 12 months leading up to the audit. Recommended town ensures all levels of workers, supervisors, managers perform the assigned facility inspections. And documentation was not consistently available to support that emergency response drills. So that has to do with our emergency response drills and not conducting them on a regular basis. And documentation did not consistently support corrective actions resulting from investigations that had been implemented in accordance with the audit protocol. So the investigations were completed and the lack of follow-up wasn't documented properly. They had been followed up on, but it wasn't documented that it had been completed. So there was no documentation trail for that. So moving forward, we will update the health and safety action plan to include any of the suggestions, continue working on our hazard assessments and SOPs and JPRs or job performance requirements to update them and ensure that our employees are all trained on the updated SOPs and JPRs and perform an annual maintenance audit for the next 2 years to ensure that we're improving the program to meet the audit standard. Any questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much and congratulations on the meeting core. Does anybody have any questions? No.
No.
Councillor
Thank you.
Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just through to Kevin, just an operational question. At your health or your joint health and safety work committee meetings, are those minutes posted somewhere or?
Yeah, the minutes are posted on each of the bulletin boards within the facility of their health and safety boards, as well as they're posted on Civic Web and are posted on the shared drive now. Because we're trying, if it's being posted on Civic Web, it'll be posted on the shared drive as well.
So if there's actions that are needed as a result of those meetings or those inspections, the follow-ups also communicated out too?
Yeah, the follow-ups are communicated out and I keep track of the follow-ups. I have an action item list that I keep for facility inspections, for safety meetings, and for incident investigations that go out to management, as well as Joint Worksite Health and Safety Committee on a monthly basis.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll have someone make the motion then, please, to accept this report as information.
I'd so move, Mayor Barkley, that we accept the report for information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Okay, thank you again, Kevin, for coming. Appreciate it. Okay, and we will move on to 3.5, Director Jenkins with the Equicb charging station update.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. We're just looking to provide council with an update on the EV charging station located at the Equus corporate office here in town. Back in 2020, the town provided $10,000 towards the installation of the fast charging vehicle unit. In 2021, the unit was utilized 718 times for a total of 15,619 kilowatt hours and 427 minutes of charging time. Charges are still currently being provided free of charge at the station. Don't ask me for my source on this, but 15,000 kilowatt hours is about the equivalent of 2 households' annual utility or electricity usage, for context, according to Google. So yes, just for information, keeping council up to date on that contribution.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. Great to see it being used that much. That's awesome. Any questions? Councillor Harrison?
Oh, okay,
Councillor
thank you, Mayor
Hystad.
Barkley, just through to Director Jenkins. Of that 427 minutes, is that local minutes? Is that off the highway? Have they broken it out, or just anybody that's got a car can come in and plug in?
Anybody that has a car can come in and plug in. Yeah, so the Flow is the app that you identify charging stations. That's who tracks it. So it's just you have a unique ID and you plug in and charge. They did provide me a big spreadsheet that shows actually each individual charging session and the type of vehicle and that sort of thing. But yeah, it doesn't track whether it's a local vehicle or any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hystad?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Don, Councillor Harrison. My question would be, is Equus wanting to put more in our community or wanting to work with us on that in the future, seeing it's just on one side of the community?
We haven't talked about more charging stations with Equus. There is actually a new program through MCCAC offering funding to install new EV charging stations throughout municipalities. So that is something we've been keeping an eye on, but yeah.
Just to add in, council staff did go ahead and put an expression of interest into that grant just to get ourselves in the queue. Depending on that result, we'll come back to you to see if this is of interest.
Okay, and Councillor Bates?
So I think I heard recently the federal government is planning to install them all over Alberta. And we were asked by Equus, I think it was a feature of their whole system over there to have the capability to bring somebody off the highway and visit Innisfail and do it. At this point, all of that charging has been courtesy of Equus as far as supplying the electricity. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I'll have someone make the motion, please, that we accept this report as information.
Mayor Barkley, will move the council accepts this report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to 3.6 with Director Jenkins and the Central Alberta Tourism Alliance.
Okay, so again, just another information item to provide council an overview of the Central Alberta Tourism Alliance, or CATA, to which we are a member. So this is a budgeted item. The town provides a $5,000 annual membership fee to be a part of CATA. And their stated purpose is to champion the implementation of the Regional Destination Management Plan by 2025 with a focus on experiences, growth, and diversification, and environment and host communities through destination development, management, and marketing initiatives. So in your package, we did include the destination management plan that was done back in 2015. Essentially, it's a group of municipalities that meets periodically to discuss opportunities and look at ways to further the region and that as a destination in accordance with that destination management plan. For the past year or so, Ken has been our representative at the CATA meetings. So if there's any more specific questions, he's also available. But since COVID, the committee hasn't been super active, but really just for information, it is a budget item and just for council's understanding of what that group's about.
Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to our wonderful director. Thank you for the package. This is all very interesting. My question is around performance indicators and outcomes. So we've been a member for 5 years. We have the plan. We have in the plan, section 8 is monitoring our progress. But are we monitoring our progress? Do we have any data, anything that's come out of the last 5 years worth of investment to indicate that we're moving forward at all?
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Wing. In the time that I've been in discussion with the group, that has not come up. I will say that, again, due to COVID, there haven't been a lot of major projects that have been undertaken, and that was a decision of the group to kind of put it on hold until we come out of COVID. So the reports that you see were sort of started earlier on. So again, there's no real performance indicator that I know of at this point.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, my questions were kind of like along that same line. To be honest with you, it was totally off my radar. And I think it's something we should look at annually almost as to what value. Because pre-COVID, was there any tracked value? And as we sit here today, what would the projected value be for 3 years from now or whatever? And I had one last question. That was the 5,000. Is that for every member, or is that population based, or how did we? Again, it was off my radar.
Okay, Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Bates. My understanding is the $5,000 is a fee for all of the communities that are involved. So I don't think it's prorated on population, but I can provide that answer for you. I can look into that a little bit. My understanding is that that money gets pooled and gets used toward the projects that the group decide to push forward as a group. So the studies that we see coming out of CATA were actually decided upon by the members of the group at that time. And the studies that they undertake take a longer period of time. So I believe that trail study was a 2-year process from the time it was initiated to the time it was done. And if you think the member communities that are investing, one project can take up to 2 years to build up that pool of funds in order to pay for, depending on the value of that project. So
Supplementary would be, so administration's been attending. Does administration say we've been getting our money's worth? And I know COVID is a pause, but.
CEO Becker.
Mayor Barkley, Councillor Bates, and really to all of council, it really is the reason why we brought this forward is to to create awareness of this membership. We've had staff attend. Ken, just recently, we had a previous communications economic development manager attending. I do have sensible awareness of the destination management plan, which was created probably about 3 years ago, I'm guessing. But was that to create awareness and then to start measuring those the benefits to participating with these programs. So the recommendation is to maintain our involvement with this organization and really put effort into measuring on the outcomes and the performance indicators, as you mentioned.
I think what may be good, whether it's Ken or Kata coming in and doing a presentation and telling us exactly like what is being done and sorry, CEO Becker.
It would be Ken. There's no real governance entity that develops CATA, but there's no executive director. It's membership driven.
Okay, maybe we could do that down the road when time suits, and just bring us up to speed more about it. I know we spoke about it last term, but it's been a while. And
Mayor Barkley, if I may, just sorry, Councillor Mazzaro, so I'll just jump in quickly. With the city of Red Deer and developing their destination tourism corporation or whatever the work is, and they're working very closely with Red Deer, with Tourism Red Deer. I would actually like to have a better understanding of how this work fits with the work that's ongoing with the city. I don't want to see the region get lost in any of the work that the city is doing with all of this. And it's wonderful for us in our strategic planning to address tourism and sports tourism and all of that as key, as great things for us to address, but having that regional perspective I think is really important. So we've got the plan from 5 years ago, but we have no indication as to what's been going on. So if we could have some kind of a conversation in the future, I would appreciate that.
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Wing. I did have a conversation with Tourism Red Deer last week. I was able to sort of get a clearer idea. Red Deer Tourism is sort of the boots on the ground marketing of the region, and we pay a separate fee to be a part of that. So CATA is a separate entity through which Red Deer Tourism or Tourism Red Deer administers the funds for CATA and oversees the sort of the administration of that account. But the two are almost unrelated. So it's two different groups. I don't see at this point, and the projects that have been undertaken, those CATA projects are not directly related to the actions that Red Deer Tourism are undertaking. So it is two very different separate entities.
Mayor Barkley.
Yeah.
Just to add in, so as Ken came on within his role as communications, this is really a tag on to fill a void. So we do need to flush that out on capacity. So we're touching the bases on tourism, but it's certainly identified likely more so in the economic development strategy, which you're going to see soon. So yeah, we're just trying to cover the bases on the corner of our desks with these types of initiatives.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you, Ken, for that information. Could I please have someone make a motion to accept this report as information?
Mayor Barkley, I would make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? Okay, perfect. So we will move into correspondence. CEO Becker.
If you don't mind, Mayor Barkley, just to walk you through a few of the items. I just want to draw attention to a few of these. Number 3, the Alberta 55+ Summer Winter Games. In discussion with Director Jenkins, likely the best place will have your discussion, your feedback, but put this over to the Community Services Standing Committee for evaluation and review, and perhaps feedback back to you on what they see within that correspondence. I'm not sure, Megan, if you have anything you wish to add to that, but.
No, that was sort of the identified plan of attack on this one, was to take it to community services. There is some supplemental information from the Alberta 55 plus website about, you know, what types of facilities and what type of an undertaking a project like this would look like. So we'll be reviewing that with the community services group next week.
Okay, yeah, I think it's very interesting to look at this. I believe Rocky Mountain House was the last community that held the 55 plus games, and there's a lot of people that came into the community, and
Absolutely. It's Mayor Berkeley. It's a big ordeal, a lot of legacy. It generates a new volunteer base. There's a lot of benefit. There's a lot of work as well, but certainly looking forward to the feedback from the committee. Back to you, council.
great, thank you.
Another item, my Berkeley Council, is number 4, just putting a spotlight a little bit on the joint use and planning agreements, which is going to start generating some conversation with your engagements with the school boards. So to become more familiar with what that looks like, you may wish to listen in or participate in the upcoming engagements. So certainly leave that to you. If you wish to register, we'd be happy to help you out with that if you do have some time. If not, you'll certainly come back at another time in another place.
CEO Becker, just while we're on the subject, have we had any dialogue like with the joint use? I don't think the joint use committee has met for quite a while, or
the joint use committee with Chinook's Edge has met probably 3 times since summer, or since the beginning of the school year. Typically and historically, our joint use conversations have largely centered around the use portion as opposed to the planning portion that these new agreements start to factor in. But we have sort of earmarked getting rolling with that conversation. The school divisions have been somewhat preoccupied with other activities the last little while. So every time it seems like we can maybe ease into a more future looking conversation, they tend to have to change their rules and such. So it has been on the radar with both Chinook's Edge and Red Deer Catholic.
so Director Jenkins, with the joint use, has there been any discussion around, you know, when? Like, do we have to wait to get to a certain place, I guess, until we can get back in the schools for recreation use for our community again, or?
We do actually have a joint use agreement later this week, so that
Okay.
will be part of that conversation.
Okay.
If they have any sort of timeline or indication. When we met, I think November was the last one. It was sort of, nope, they weren't going there at that time, but I have heard that volunteers and some other folks have been able to get back into the schools, so we're hopeful.
Yeah, I'd kind of like us to be quite proactive on that, because I think, you know, we can make it work at the pool and the arena, but we could probably make it work in there too. And it's so heavily used in the winter time. Sorry, we'll carry on to the next one.
Next item, number 5, council. Certainly, I think we'll put this onto your next week's agenda. Correspondence has to be put on this agenda, but it's asking for your consideration to proclaim May 9th to 13th as Economic Development Week. So likely, I'm guessing that you'd likely wish to do that. So we'll put that onto your next week's correspondence. And then lastly, from my perspective, council, that would be number 7. There's some letters that I'd asked to put into your agenda. As you know, in your engagement with Penhold Council, administration did send out correspondence to Bowden, Penhold, and Red Deer County. We often send correspondence to Red Deer County on a lot of our projects. At this time, we did advance our communications to Bowden and Penhold. Just asked to circle back to you and really have this conversation about this service, and perhaps we defer it to the Transportation Committee for review to determine if this is something you formally wish to do, is to looking like a formalizing aspect of that service of transportation, and then also from council to councils, if you wish to make that request to their councils for consideration. So I'll leave it for discussion, and then hopefully direction, if not at least to the committee, which meets this week.
Okay, any questions about that? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I have one. So as I read those, if I try to put myself in the position of the receiver of them, I think there's some details that they would probably want to know. Like it's pretty generic about service areas and stuff, but it seems very much to resemble the PACE bus. And yeah, I'm thinking if I'm on their council, I want to know more details, I would think. But I actually think this unit has morphed into being a second PACE bus pretty much, in my opinion, but make me thinking.
Yeah, so I guess it seems to generate conversation when you ask for money. So it's a conversation that's come up at Transportation Committee often is how to define that service area and what, you know, because we are working through the Legion in terms of administering the buses, there's often a gray area of where they go and who they can pick up. So we hope as we're renewing the agreement, as we bring on the second unit, to try to firm that up a bit. So this does give us the opportunity to have those conversations with the county as well as Bowden and Penhold in terms of whether the vehicles are available within their boundaries as well. The second unit very much will be augmenting the PACE bus service, and we do want to expand how we market it, that it isn't just necessarily for people with mobility issues or for seniors. It really is a community transportation service. So.
CEO Becker?
And following up to say Councillor, but Director Jenkins, it is really, I think there's a need to define the service. That's probably a very first step to what is committee onto council's expectation of that service delivery model. Does it, you know, what does that regional component look like? And then following what that service looks like is then how do we fund it? Is it solely with Innisfail or is there other partners as per the letters? So that's probably the best place to start.
Sure. I also think, you know, we want to be cognizant of expectations coming from other communities if they're providing funding as well. And, you know, somebody needs the bus and it's already booked, or the van and it's already booked, and is that going to be an issue? So yeah, lots to work out. So do you need any kind of a motion from us at this point, or?
I don't think so,
Okay.
Mayor Barkley. Only a sense of awareness.
Yeah.
And then I think administratively we'll chat tomorrow on following back through with the 3 municipalities, and just give an understanding that we need to do a little bit more coordination and then communication on through the committee, council, and then advance those discussions with potential partners.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions on that? No? Okay. Okay, I'll have someone make a motion then that we accept the correspondence as information.
I'll move that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Okay,
Mayor
thank you.
Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Okay, and we will move on into the roundtable discussion. We'll start with Councillor Wing today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, so since our last meeting, I had the opportunity to participate in a meeting with our mayor and Heather Thompson at the University of Alberta. We met at the end of January to discuss the business link marketing program, sort of the whole notion of the digital economy and what opportunities may exist for Innisfail related to economic development and growth. So certainly I was wearing my council hat, but also my chamber hat as well. And then was able to follow up that conversation the next day with an invitation to attend the Community Economic Development Committee meeting and the presentation of the draft economic development strategy that was created by Eric Burton of Factor 5. Very interesting. I think, yeah, we'll be taking a look at it as a group, but I think that you're going to be very pleased and very interested in the results of that work. Certainly enjoyed our meeting last Monday with Penhold Town Council. I believe that opportunities and key learnings that come from these kinds of conversations just provide projects in the future. And again, that's no secret that I'm passionate about the region as a whole. So I think that building bridges with our communities, colleagues in our surrounding communities is really important for us as well as for them. Along with a group of you, I attended the Rcmp Engagement in Olds at Olds College last week relative to the proposed Alberta Provincial Police. Certainly got the very strong feeling from the people in the room that rural Alberta for sure is not very supportive of that. So it was a very interesting presentation. It was presented by the National Union through the RCMP. So lots of good data and lots of good information. It was well done. And then finally on the weekend, thanks to Councillor Dunham, I had the great privilege of attending the Artists of Aspenland Art Show, and it was amazing. We have some highly skilled, we have a lot of very highly skilled artists and people in our community. So I think the status of the art club as we coming out of COVID is something that we as a council need to pay attention to. And I think that we should be looking at that as a potential marketing strategy for our town. So certainly on focusing on the economic development or economic benefits of arts and culture and promotion of that, I think is in our very best interest. So it was a good couple of weeks. Thank you.
Councillor Bates.
Sounds like we have another subject for strategic planning. So yeah, in the past year, so I attended the Penhold engagement and found that to be quite interesting, and always see something that you haven't heard of before that they're looking at. I also attended the National Police Federation. Everything they presented pretty much reinforced what we heard through the Alberta Municipalities Zoom. I did hear the odd person in there that was challenging them. But as I listened to it, I reflected on our situation here and probably the value that goes kind of unnoticed of the police dog training facility that we have down here. And I think about that over the, I don't even know how many decades it's been there, but the economic spinoff that we probably enjoy from meals and hotels, and plus it's a ready-made backup of all things police that is there. And so to me, that stands out as another thing that I don't think they even recognize, that the presentation. I asked him and he said he hadn't really looked into that. So just now finished call it the first class JM tour. And of course, I'm having many flashbacks after walking through the facility. And this week, looking forward to further touring some of the town facilities. I have a Mountain View Water Commission meeting, and I guess the Bowden interactions upcoming and the Brownlee emerging trends. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, your worship. I attended Age Friendly, and actually I want to recognize Ron here today, who's in the gallery, who sits on the committee. And we went through a review with Sandy Wacker and Karen Bradbury of, you know, some of the wish lists that the community has through Age Friendly. And believe it or not, I was at A&W on Sunday and the washrooms came up and I was blown away, like outdoor washrooms during the winter time, and never thought of it. And actually, when you're walking around or you're looking at the community, there's a lot of people that are outdoors, 12 months a year. And that was a big one that came to me on the weekend. And I thought the work that we did, it was a couple hours with Age Friendly, was really good. So that was my very first meeting because I missed due to my surgery in December. But I want to thank Ron for sitting on that committee and being so involved and coming in and watching our council meetings on a regular basis. I did attend Penhold with all of you, and I thought it was a really good meeting on how do we strategize and make things better for our region, as well as how do we, talk about issues that we may be having as councils, and how to have that further dialogue with our MLA. in the community. Historical Village, that had happened as well. We're getting 2 new I was going to say 2 new toilets and a hot water tank. I was going to say the S word, but I can't say that, so it wouldn't be polite. And we had, I think it was around 350 people attend the tumbleweed event, which I think that was mentioned before. Another big event is going to happen is the Queen's 70th celebration. So there's going to be an event for that. And yeah, no, I was at that meeting with Councillor Harrison. So just looking through my notes, I want to thank CEO Todd Becker, we're going to talk about water meters come March. And on the welcoming committee, we had a presentation from the RCMP. They have a diversity unit where they have 2 officers, working within communities in the north and the south on diversity and equity. And that was a great presentation. So I'm going to propose that we bring that to our policing committee. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I also attended the joint council meetings between Penhold and Innisfail, and I found it very refreshing that both councils are starting to work together and works towards a strategic future. Also, I attended the provincial police force presentation in Olds, and very informative. And I think we need to get that out to our public. Some of the stats that they were using, I think it's very informative. I do have a transportation committee meeting. I believe it's tomorrow afternoon. And it's good that this letter has come up in the areas of service, because I know when I was in my previous life as a manager over at the Legion, we were running into that all the time. And we get calls from Eckville, Sundre. We get calls from quite an area, or we're getting calls. So we need to define that, but that'll be committee work. The Calgary Home Show, that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And I know you've looked for volunteers to go down and man the booth. The question is, have you got a roster yet, or has there been some thought given to who we might be able to slot in? And I think that's about, yeah, and I took the Mansfield plant tour today, which was good too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Harrison, a roster has not quite been developed yet. I have been told that it will be this week. They're just waiting for a few more volunteers to look at their schedules and get back to the organizer. I will send that out as soon as it comes to me.
Okay, thank you. It's just that the weather's really warm and the pavement's dry and I want to get my bike out, so I'll leave it at that.
I will let the organizer know.
That might change in a couple of weeks. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I don't have very much to report on the last week, but I look forward to catching up and getting back involved next week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. On January 25th, I was able to attend my first Community Services Standing Committee meeting, which was great to be a part of that. We had 2 applications and presentations that day. So it was nice to see there are groups and individuals in the community that are reaching out and utilizing that. On January 27th, I was also part of the Equicb committee meeting, and once again, a wonderful presentation by Factor 5, and really looking forward to what is going to become of that in the next meeting and over the next 3 years. Just absolutely wonderful work there. On Monday, January 31st, I was also able to attend the Penhold Town Council engagement. I'd met a couple of the councillors at AUMA, but it was good to see those and meet the mayor. It was also interesting to hear their struggles and successes just over the last few months and the previous council, and sort of compare it to what I've learned about ours. It was also interesting to explore the opportunities to collaborate with them that are going to be in mutually beneficial ways. And then fortunately, I wasn't able to attend in person the old RCMP, but on Thursday I was able to do the Zoom one, and it was once again interesting to hear their view on the Alberta Police services and yeah, it's the amount of information that I've learned about it over the last little while has definitely expanded my view, and definitely I'm seeing a consensus among most people as to their view on it. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Okay, thank you. So I attended the Community Economic Development meeting, Penhold Town Council, and the Keep Alberta RCMP, of course, in Olds. This morning, CEO Becker and I were both at the Government of Alberta presentation on the Alberta Provincial Police Service. I'm going to say a little bit of a different twist on what was presented than what we saw last week. So that was interesting, a little different as well. In fact, you know, it's employees of Alberta government that are putting that on. So, you know, a little bit, I don't know, people have to be careful what they ask because of course there's no political component to it. They're just presenting information that PricewaterhouseCoopers has come up with. So, and then the Johns Manville tour today was excellent. It's just amazing to go in there and watch the production. And you know, we were talking about it on the way out, and what stood out for us was, or Councillor Wing and I, was the safety aspect, and the component of that was certainly front and center. I just want to go back to Penhold Town Council for this a moment. That discussion that evening, what stood out for me that night was a discussion around the train and what's going on there. CP was going to be here today, but they had to cancel, and hopefully they're coming back before the end of February and to present to us, or at least on Zoom. So looking forward to that. Then, of course, we have your facilities tour this week, Town of Bowden Engagement as well, which I'm looking forward to. So is there anything else from any staff? No? Okay. And I would have someone make a motion to go in camera then, please.
I'll make that motion. Go on camera.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?